throwing it out there. I like the kid. I want him to succeed over there.
Mentally, he needs to get his head back in the game to race with those guys.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Title 24, presented by NBC Sports. I'm Ricky Carmichael. Alongside of me, my co-host, Ryan Villopoto. We got a massive thanks to United Motorsports, Boxo USA, and Quad Lock Case. We appreciate the partnership, some of the best stuff, best companies in the business. And thanks for tagging along on this ride. It's been a fantastic season. And RV, before we get going, we got a special guest coming on. But I thought you and we were kind of talking this week, you know, we weren't going to do anything. And we're like, man, with all the announcements and silly season coming out this last week, we're like, I think we should do something and maybe chime in, huh?
That's right. Yeah, we gotta stay up on the front lines of this thing, man. There's a lot of guys changing, moving around. You know, some new manufacturers. There's all kinds of stuff to talk about.
That's right. So our special guest today, he is the chief editor at WeWentFast.com. Brett Smith, just a fantastic guy. And a quick story before we bring him in. I've known Brett for a very long time. He's from Michigan. We raced amateurs together, same class, same age group, all that fun stuff. But nevertheless, Brett has been in the industry his whole life. He's very passionate about it. And if you don't know him, you need to know him. He recently wrote just an absolutely incredible story about my departure from Honda to Suzuki. Did a ton of work, spent a lot of time, did a lot of research on this story. It was the greatest gamble in motocross. So make sure you check that out at We Went Fast. But he's been, he's an editor, a great writer. Like I said, passionate, a true historian of the sport. He works closely with Clinton Fowler, the king of the calculators as well. And, with the silly season amongst us and all of the news coming out from some of the teams, some of the media stuff that we've seen from some of the teams, which was pretty cool, throwing a little sense of humor in there as well. We figured let's bring him on. So we would love to introduce Brett Smith.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show.
All right, Brett. Yeah, so I just shared the story about how we met and our journey through amateur racing, and then you went on to do other things. But you've always been just a historian of the sport, and you've worked really hard. All of your stories that you've done, just the amount of time that you put in, and just a quick rundown for our listeners and viewers of the time you spent, who you talked to. For your latest story that you wrote about my departure from Honda to Suzuki, and what was the mindset and the thoughts and all that. If you want to explain to us and everyone that journey and what it was like when you did your research.
Yeah, the greatest gamble in motocross. It started as a deep dive into your perfect seasons, but we both quickly realized, well, you won all the races. That's not that interesting of a story. And we kept talking about switching from Honda to Suzuki and everything that went into that. I mean, like we both said, that's the story, how this happened, how you were recovering from a knee injury and people were doubting you. And there was a lot of noise in the background, and it's a silly season story. Everyone loves a good silly season story. And especially that one, it had never been told. How did Honda let you go in the first place? How in the hell did Suzuki come up with the money to pay you? They hadn't been winning championships and, many championships in your lifetime. And, thanks to the people around you, they were willing to dig through your archives and pull up old emails and contracts and really dive into all those details.
That's crazy. That's really crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I just go back, like I said, a lot of the people don't know just how much time you spent on this. I mean, how long was it from start to finish?
18 months off and on. Like I would pick it up, work on it, put it away. I would, agent David Mormon, this was your agent. That was a long time ago for him. He's not representing motocross athletes anymore. And for him to say, okay, let me help out this guy who I don't even know, let me dig through my archives. That was a big lift for him. And so I was waiting on information from him. And Ricky, Ryan, so much happens in these athletes' lives, right, that they don't even know about. You might go on a podcast and go, oh, I remember, I think it was this, or I think it was that. I'm talking about like contract details, bonuses. You don't even know, because you're so focused on racing that you don't even know what's going on in the back end. So I had to, find your circle, everyone that was there with you during that time, and get them to kind of spill the details, if you will. Because is it true, Ryan? Like, you guys don't even know sometimes what's going on in the circle around you, right?
Exactly. Like, yeah, I've been asked, I don't know how many questions. Well, what about this? What'd you get paid for this? Well, how did this go break down? Or, break it down for us. And I'm like, as a rider, and probably Ricky, very similar, like, you're so entrenched in, the racing, the development, the winning. You have a team, like Ricky had an agent. I had an agent. They handled all that back end stuff. So 18 months to work on that and drum up all this information. I mean, it had to be, it's a lot of work, buddy.
I mean, dude, like what was really cool, RV, is how Brett called my old manager, David Mormon. So for those of you guys listening and or watching, David Mormon was my old agent from 2001 or 2 to till 2008, I think, 7 or 8, when I retired from racing dirt bikes shortly thereafter. But nevertheless, I hadn't spoke to him since then, but he did an incredible deal. You need to read it. It's on We Went Fast. But it was cool for me to see all the people that you reached out to, Brett, that I hadn't talked to in years. People at Honda, like Ray Blank, the president of American Honda at the time. My old agent, David Mormon. David Mormon worked for an agency. He had an agency out of Orlando. They actually represented myself and Bubs for a little bit of time, just a short time with Bubs. But for me, basically, for a long time, 7 years or so. But it was just cool to listen to the stories. Chuck Miller being one guy, Gary Christopher from Honda as well. I mean, basically, you basically talked to everyone, all the main B players, except obviously Mel Harris from Suzuki, who had passed away before you had an opportunity to talk to him. But it was cool that everyone was willing to chime in for the most part.
Thankfully, I save everything. So I found an interview I did with Uncle Mel back in 2005. So I saved everything, no stone unturned. But 20 years is a long time, and memories fade. So you just keep digging and digging until you realize everyone's kind of telling you the same thing, and you're not finding new information. But I was there during both of your silly season switches, Ricky. 01 Kawasaki to Honda, and then 04 Honda to Suzuki. And so tying this with what is going on today, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Your switch from Kawi to Honda was a secret. No one talked about it. We all knew about it, but no one said anything. It was this tense secret all through the summer. Whereas a few years later, you go from Honda to Suzuki, and we all knew it. You were out with it. You talked to Cycle News. You interviewed with me about it. But it was like, okay, it's out there. Now we're going to go racing. Let's not worry about it. We'll revisit this in September, October, when you'll see me on a yellow bike. Was there a reason for those decisions, why you talked in one and didn't talk in the other?
Yeah, because I was pretty much sworn to secrecy with Honda. A lot like the Triumph stuff. Like we're under strict NDAs and trying to keep this thing under wrap, because the Triumph thing, building something from the ground up, making changes on the motorcycles, big changes on the motorcycles took time. So we just weren't at liberty to talk, and they had a whole rollout plan. Very similar in its own way when I left Kawi going to Honda. They wanted it to be a massive secret. And if you go back to that year from 2001 to 2002 series, I mean, factory Honda, I mean, they rolled out the checkbook for racing in all forms, whether it's road or motocross. I mean, dude, we had myself, Nathan Ramsey, we had Ernesto Fonseca. I did Tortelli. I can't remember. I think Tortelli was our teammate also. If he wasn't, then I'm misspoken. And then you go on the road race side. What they had the Bostrom brothers, they had Nicky Hayden. I mean, dude, it was just absolutely slammed. And they had been on a dry spell for quite some time, basically, at least on the motocross side, since MC left. So they were really ready to roll it out, and luckily it worked out for all of us. But yeah, it was just they wanted to keep everything quiet, and I think there was a respect factor there. Like, you know, they didn't want to poo-poo all over Cowie. But the crazy thing is, in RV, I don't know if you've been in this spot. And I know I'm kind of bouncing all around here, but dude, like Cowie never, if my mind serves me right, Cowie never gave me an offer to like stay with them. It's really weird. I had I had a conversation with someone, one of my bosses at Cowie at Vegas Supercross inside the semi, and I said, hey, this is what I just wanted to let you know this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, and these are the reasons why, and blah, blah, blah. I just, you know, I felt like I owed it to him to be honest with him and forthcoming about my decisions and most importantly, why I was making the decisions. But then I go back to, you know, like, dude, it was kind of an easy decision, RV, because I didn't have anything to get, like, I didn't have to make a decision. Like,
they weren't trying to keep you there.
Yeah. They're like, hey, man, what can we do to keep you here?
Yeah. We don't want you to leave. How can we make this right? What do you need from our end? Yeah, it seemed very like
RV, do you like, this is what, and sorry, Brett, like I'm not trying to steal the show here, but RV, were you ever in a position to where you were forced to make that hard call? Like, hey, man, like Yamaha's coming at me or Honda's coming at me. I mean, was there ever?
No, never. To be honest.
Wow, really?
Not once.
Not once. I had one, as far as I had Bobby Nichols was my agent my entire career, and we had an offer from Honda, and it was like, I want to say it was $800,000, and I was upwards of right at 2, I believe, at Cowie. And it was the gap was so huge, it wasn't worth it. What
year was this ish?
That would have been 2000. Let's see. I went 09, 10, 11. It would have been 2011 contract year, I believe.
Heading into the 2012 season?
12, 13, 14. Yeah, I believe so. Because that was because my Kawasaki contract was 12, 13, and 14. I ended up doing a 3-year contract. That's kind of par for the course of the European thing, because I figured I'm going to do 3 years, and I'm done. But closest thing was Honda was an offer, but it was substantially lower, so it wasn't even a conversation.
You were the defending Supercross champion.
That is nuts.
Yep. Wow. I think it's interesting to see, right? Like, I feel like some of these teams go through rebuilding stages, and
they were still rebuilding from paying RC.
Well, if you want to say it like that, yeah, like rebuilding. They, RC had just went, or he had left, and I think at the time they had Trey, they had Chad for, popping in and out. I think he rode for factory, and then he did his own team, and they were kind of in this limbo type of year. So I don't know if they were ready to spend the money to go and win, because that's what it takes. You got to spend the money if you want to win.
Yeah.
So one more point on the story, and then I want to throw another question at you, RV. In the greatest gamble in motocross, we got deep into the numbers. We dug into Ricky's actual contract. So they're not just, we think maybe it could have been. No, we tell the numbers. RV, Ricky was part of the 2 biggest silly season stories in motocross history. Do you wish you had one of those stories to tell now, 10 years after your career, that you've been part of that scramble? As stressful as it is in the moment, I'm sure, looking back on it, it's a pretty cool story.
It totally is. And I've said this in the past, and I think I've said this on the show a couple of times. And, I reference Eli, at Kawasaki, watching that wind down, kind of figuring out if he's going to retire, if he's going to keep racing. I think we all could see on his yes, he over it. It looked like he was kind of over it, but it was more or less, he needed a scenery change. And I believe that would have helped me also. If I would have had a scenery change, a new set of goals, new team members. I think for me, the one thing is what made my relationship a little bit different with Kawasaki was I started from Team Green, 80s up to Mitch to the factory team. So, if I would have done let's say I took the Honda deal at 800 grand, I would have been like, say 24, 25 ish, 24, I believe 23, 24. Yeah. At that point, I don't want to say that I was much older and wiser, but when I signed my Kawasaki contract, I was like, call it 19. I was still really like kind of a kid, so I don't want to say they treated me like a kid, but essentially like I was this kid that came from super minis to PC to now factory. So I think the dynamic would have been different when you switch teams. You go to them and they're looking at you as an equal almost. Not that Cowie didn't, because I still love those guys. Still have a great relationship with them, but I think our work relationship would have been a little bit different. I think I could have swung my weight around more at a different team in the middle of my career, if that makes sense.
That does. And let's use that as the segue to get into the hot topic right now. We are at the end of silly season. Chase Sexton is 24 years old. It is October. The deal has not been announced, but everyone and their grandmother has said goodbye to him from Honda. It has not been announced where he's going, but we know that he's going to be going to KTM after 146 races on a red bike. Reactions, guys. Who wants to take it first? Just your instant reaction to this. You've had the whole season to think about it. And again, worst kept secret in moto. No one has talked about it, just like Ricky switched to Honda back in 01.
I think it's great. I honestly, I think that, looking at Team Honda and looking at the success that the Lawrence brothers have had, it's natural course of like, obviously they're going to bring Hunter up into that seat. Right. So I think, I do think Chase I think it's good for him. Now, I think it's good for the change. I think that's going to be, I think Roger can, I don't want to say use the word help, because I think Lars was a great team manager too, but he's going to go to a different team, like a very similar to me. Like he's going to go there at 24 as a Supercross champion. He's going to be able to throw his weight around. He's going to be able to, tell them what he wants or doesn't like and things like. I just feel like he'll have a better foundation underneath of him, if that makes sense. But I can't tell you if it's going to change his results.
Yeah, I don't think any of us can. I mean, hey, throwing it out there, I like the kid. I want him to succeed over there. And there's some guys at Red Bull, KTM, a few guys that I've worked with in the past that I would love to see have some success. It just, dude, I mean, RV, better than anyone. It's so hard. And I don't know that the grass is going to be greener. I think maybe mentally it will be good. Like RV has said. And it's just like, wow, like, look how good it was when Eli went to Monster Energy Star Yamaha. I never anticipated that success ever. But you know what? If that is the difference maker, then you know what? Time will tell, and we will find out. And I think we will know early on. I think we talked here on Title 24, probably months back. RV, we're going to know about round 5 of Supercross where they're at, dude. And
exactly. And that's what we have to see, right? Like, does it come out? Does he come out and just, and build nicely? Or like, the thing is where it is, and I know we're going to have it, we're going to see it. There's going to be a fire drill, and that is going to be where, how do they rebound from the fire drill? Let's say Saturday night, wheels fall off the wagon. We got to go back Monday, Tuesday. We're back to, we have to reinvent ourselves, essentially get back up on the horse. Those are the times that are may be uncomfortable for him, or that he's really going to have to learn, right? That scenario, because he's been through the toughs, the ups and downs with Honda and the team personnel. Never has he done that with KTM and Red Bull. Obviously they've done it with you, Ricky. They know how to groom these riders up to get the best out of them, but it's going to be a learning curve for both sides, for Red Bull, KTM and Chase.
And the thing is too, like, well, here, I mean, we talk about Jet so much. I mean, listen, dude, he is one of those riders. He is special. His results speak for themselves. So it's not like Chase is lining up against a dude that is like just a normal guy. You know, if Jet and his stats are showing, and Brett, you would know more to this because your relationship with King of the Calculator. I mean, you're not just racing a normal guy. So is the, you know, the switch with Chase going from Honda to KTM, was it a good switch for him? Possibly, but will we ever be able to see that materialize? Who knows? Time's only going to tell, because he's racing what could be one of the best guys to ever do it. He's got a long way to go to prove that and build those numbers up. I'm just saying he has the pedigree, and it looks like he has a pedigree to do that. So it's going to be tough. But one thing I will say about Chase that I really admire him for is the guy never, ever, ever gives up. I mean, every time he would get up, come back swinging, he's positive, and you know, he's going to have that mentality for the rest of his career, 100%. Right? I mean, he's going to have to.
Yep. No, and I think he does. I think we've seen that from Chase this year alone. I think we see how thick his skin is and the resiliency that he has, because, man, media, fans, I mean, and himself, more importantly, have been very hard on him for the and I just say careless mistakes, you know, 9 times out of 10, they're careless mistakes. And, you know, I'm hoping to see that he can figure that out. And look, how crazy would it be for those mistakes, those careless mistakes, to now be gone on a different manufacturer? I'm not saying it's going to, but I have to throw it out there that it is a different chassis. It's a different motor. It's a different suspension. It's a whole different motorcycle. So it could work into his favor, or it could be, man, we got a lot of stuff we have to figure out on this motorcycle. We don't know.
Yeah. Last point on Chase. That is his kryptonite, lost positions, right? And Eli doesn't do that. Jet doesn't do that. Hunter rarely does that. You look at Chase's stats from 2023, Indy, he went from 3rd to 10th. Seattle, he went from 1st to 5th. Those killed him. You know, in the end, it was Eli's 1st to 22nd, you know, at Denver there that did him in. But that's what costs you championships. It cost Eli the championship, and it could have cost Chase the championship had Cooper Webb stayed in it in 2023.
Yeah, so it's very interesting.
Does a new bike fix that? We won't know.
I mean, time's going to tell. And I mean, I hope it goes good for him. I really do, because I want to see a damn good battle. But it's just, I think for someone like, for RV, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you probably have the same mindset here. It's just like, we've been in it for so long. It's like, okay, well, that's great. He's on a new bike, whatever, but we've got to see it happen. We've got to see it materialize. So I don't think we get
and Ricky, I will say that, like, I'm sure people had doubts from Kawasaki to Honda, right?
Yeah.
For you, and then Honda
for sure, Honda to Suzuki.
Exactly. Like, you're going to a different brand, something that hasn't won in a while. So, but here's the difference between guys like me, you, Chase, Jet, and all these other guys. Like, it's the color of the motorcycle. And that is the only thing different in our heads, really. Like, right. As Chase switching over, I can guarantee you, and I know this for a fact, and not because I've asked him, just because I know how he is meant, like how they are mentally, how these racers are. Like, yes, will he have some issues? Probably, but his mental capacity and what he's going to do, he's a winner, and he's going to put himself in that position. Not to say he's going to not have any mistakes, but he will get wins on that KTM, and he will be in the fight because he's a champion. Yep.
RV, can you believe that Ricky never rode that Suzuki before he signed that contract? Can you even fathom that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, risky, right? Like to not ride it and see how far off it was compared to what he was riding. But once again, Ricky knew that he was going to go there and they were going to not leave any stone unturned, and they were going to roll the red carpet out for him. And it's just a different color motorcycle. Yeah. If he can win on the Honda and he can win on the Cowie, he's going to win on the Suzuki. And that's my point to Chase.
Yeah. And to that point, RV is like, I was racing Reedy at the time, like Bubs wasn't quite there yet. So I'm like, dude, if I'm on similar equipment as Reedy, I feel like I can get him, you know.
Yep.
And Raj was telling me like, hey, dude, the engine package is a spitting image of the Yamaha, the YZ250. So that's what kind of gave me clarity in my decision. Was it risky? Of course it was, by not riding it. But I did the most of my homework that I could have possibly done without riding it behind the scenes and asking questions like that. Hey, what kind of tires can we use? Will we have the ability to use Bridgestone? I know you have a deal with Dunlop now, but can we go there? Yeah, no problem, RC. Okay. What about suspension? Can we do Showa? Can we do KYB? You know, like, I mean, I went through all those checklists, and that, I mean, the older you get, you know, those type of things. So you can ask those questions because you know what it takes to win. And so I did as much as I could possibly do without riding it. So
that's a big deal for those companies, because there is so much pride wrapped up in everything that they do, right? So to have some 20-something-year-old young man come in and ask those questions and, well, can I do this instead?
Yeah.
And for them to say yes,
yeah,
that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I think that shows you, and that's why I say you have these highs and lows of, like, right now you have Honda up on that's just crushing it, riding that wave, you know, all the way to the beach. And, you know, Suzuki was in that position at that time, right? It seems like, listening to the story, is like, okay, we're putting all of our efforts into RC, and we're going to try to win a championship.
Well, like Ryan said, and we'll move on to the next one. I mean, RV said it perfectly. If you want to win, you got to spend the money to do it, and you have to make the changes you're willing to make to win. You know, and if you got to ruffle feathers, and you know what, the team is sponsored by Dunlop, and you know what, Bridgestone is the best. You know what, it's up to Raj to make that uncomfortable call.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, and Raj did it, and he will do that. Now, I will say, and RV, you know this better than anyone, they're going to let Chase make some calls. I'm sure that they will. But if he doesn't rise to the occasion and he doesn't back that up, then Chase is going to have to start playing their game. They're like, all right, we gave you rope. We let you do things the way you wanted, and you better put up when they give you that opportunity, because if you don't, then you're screwed. Then you're playing to their beat the rest of the partnership, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's got to be that working relationship. And like, if they give them some rope, for sure, I think they need to. But also too, we know that, look, I'm not an engineer. You're not an engineer. We know what we know what we think we want, and we try to lead those guys in the right direction. And that's all we can really do. That's right.
Well, Cooper Webb is back on Yamaha. He already has 3 races. He did the Super Motocross Championships on the YZ450F. Returning to Yamaha for the first time since 2018, but that is not the same bike. Speaking of similar equipment, we know that Eli won on that Yamaha. Should we expect the same out of Cooper? And how much do we factor in what we saw in LA, Chicago, and Charlotte?
Yeah,
8.7, and a third.
I think Cooper, he did well on the last race, a little more supercrossy. I think leaving KTM, then switching to another manufacturer. I do think that he's in a better place mentally. I think he has the racecraft to do well and do better, I think, than what he did in the SMX playoffs, 100%. I just think it's going to take time. I just think Cooper is one of those guys where if you give him a little bit, he's going to keep getting better and better and better. And sometimes it only takes just a little bit to get him going. So I feel, it's going to certainly be helpful in this off season to spend some time, get going, get more comfortable now that he doesn't, like, his back's not against the wall, like he's not up in front of the calendar. He knows he has time to get going. He can take his time. He can take weeks on weeks to get things right with the bike, rather than, oh my gosh, we got to hurry up and get ready for this. And he knows I feel like that team is going to give him what he needs. He knows where his bike needs to be, and he'll go to work. Dude, he's consistent. If he starts getting good starts, he'll figure it out. I feel like that. I think he's earned that right. He's a 2-time Supercross champ, and until he gives us a reason to not believe in him, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, I think that he kind of needs to, watching the last 3 rounds SMX. I know it was a new motorcycle. He didn't have a ton of time. He had more time than a couple days, obviously. But to me, I think that the pace has been elevated. Looking at Coop, I think mentally he needs to get his head back in the game to race with those guys. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the speed, but I think he's in a little bit of a critical point in his career. Making that switch kind of mid-season, unhappy over at KTM. Now, so I will say I feel like his back is up against the wall, not with time, but I feel like he's got to make something happen in these first 8 rounds of Supercross on the Star Yamaha bike. I think if he doesn't get out there and he doesn't get in the mix with Chase, with Eli, with Jet, and really, because to me he wasn't in the mix at these last 3 rounds.
Oh, dude, he was 25 seconds back.
He was 30 seconds behind the person in front of him in both motos. He was 5th and 3rd in LA.
Yep, great finish. Not horrible finishes, respectable finishes, but watching Chase, watching Jet, watching Kenny be able to rise to the occasion, hitting that quad, that Jet did, like all those little things. He needs to sharpen himself to get him back in that mix. And right now I feel like that's where it's a kind of a critical situation. This off season has to go perfect for him. They need to get that, get the bike where he wants it, for him to have that best shot. And then once again, get out there and gate drops Anaheim 1. He needs to put himself up front in that, I think, in those first 5 rounds and make a statement that he's going to.
Yeah, incredible analysis. You're exactly right. And I didn't think of that. That is awesome insight. Yeah, he's got, now that you've said that and like open the door, I'm like, oh, dude, he does need to, he's got to step it up. Do you think, and then we'll move on to the next, we'll let Brett move on to the next one. RV, I feel like he is one of those guys that if he can hop behind him in practice or like say a heat race early on in the season, learn that pace. Do you feel like he will have what it takes to make that next step and run that intensity, run that pace, or no?
I do. I think he's totally capable of it, but like we've mentioned it on the show before, like he's got to improve his whoops, right? Like his whoops speed has been kind of his downfall in Supercross. And as you know, if you give up half a second in one straightaway on the whoops, or with the whoops, like got up against guys like Chet, up against guys like Eli and Chase,
like seconds over the race.
Exactly. Like that's a lot. And then if you're struggling, if you're just staying on their coattails everywhere else and you're getting waxed in the whoops, like it's not enough. And mentally, what's that do to his headspace? Like that's where I feel like he's got to get out there. He's got to come out swinging. Everybody knows he's been on the bike longer than anybody else. New bike that is, leading into this upcoming season. So everybody's going to be expecting, along with the riders, I'm expecting that that's what he has to do, in my opinion, is get up and get in the mix right away.
Cooper Webb, 28 years old next month, 224 career races. He is 10th all time in Supercross wins, tied with Kenny at 21. Let's move on to Hunter Lawrence. He's 24 years old, and we expect him to move to the 450 class full time. So we have the Lawrence brothers competing in their first 450 Supercross races together. Is there any reason why, RV, we shouldn't expect Hunter to win just as we expect Jet to win?
So Brett, I think Hunter is more calculated. I think he calculates his risks more than Jet. So I think that could work into his benefit on the 450. I do think that, just watching LA, for example, I brought that up again. The pace was unbelievably high. I think that's going to be a learning curve for him. I think he's gonna leave the lights class as we all know, as everybody's full of piss and vinegar. These guys are just balls to the walls a lot of the times, where 450 class is a little more calculated. They're more mature. Their racing is a little more stable. They race, better around all of each other. But I think, Hunter, in my opinion, Hunter needs to move up to that 450 class and just be right in that top 5 area. And then I feel like he's then going to start to build I don't think we come out seeing him standing on top of the box at Anaheim 1, let's say. I mean, it'd be insane if that happened, right? But I feel like with the guys he's racing against, I feel like Hunter, just knowing him as a person on a personal level, like he's gonna start to catch that wave, and then he's gonna ride it. As long as he can stay off the ground and not be hurt and things like that, and have things go a little bit of luck his way, I think we'll see him up in the mix. But I don't see him racing for wins right away.
Ricky, what do you expect from Hunter? And what do you think he does better than his brother Jet?
Well, he is more calculated. He's smoother. He's less riskier for sure. I think in some regards that is helpful on the 450. As far as raw speed and willing to hang it out, I feel I back up RV and echo what he is saying. Like, you're going to have to do that. I feel like with Chase and Jet and even Eli, like, we haven't talked about Eli much. Do not sleep on this guy's skills. I mean, he has been special, and I feel like, maybe that injury was a blessing. I feel like he's going to have a newfound energy. He's certainly going to be rested. And so I think his biggest challenge is going to be intensity and being willing to hang it out. I think he's a podium guy. That 450 class, I mean, if you can get a good start and run up front early and have some intensity early, you can run up, you can be top 5. I think on ability, he's easily top 5. I think on a good night, and when I say good night, like assuming that Jet doesn't run up front and Kenny doesn't run up front and Chase doesn't run up front, Eli doesn't run up front, like podium's not going to be easy for him. He has the ability to do it, but he's going to have to hang it out. But I mean, it's going to be fun to see for sure. That makes sense. I don't know.
Speaking of Eli, it is a busy truck over there at Star Racing Yamaha. Justin Cooper is expected to move to the 450 full-time also. He comes into the season 26 years old, and we've seen him in the 450 class. He started 5 races last year, 7-7, 10-9-6. Ricky, were you impressed by Cooper's debut, if you will?
Yeah, I am. We talked about this, RV and I did, about a month ago when we heard some rumblings about, is Ferrandis going to get re-signed? Do they take Justin Cooper? I think from a business sense, I think that Monsters Star Yamaha did a really good job at taking Justin Cooper. He's won a couple titles. So has Dylan Ferrandis. But I think from a business side of things, that was the better move for that race team. I like Justin Cooper, what he brings to the table. I think he'll be low maintenance for the most part. When you have 2-star guys like Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac, not that those 2 guys are egomaniacs, but they're super competitive. They're both 2-time Monster Energy Supercross champs. So those are some household name guys, and they demand a certain amount of respect. They've certainly earned that, and they expect a certain amount of support technically. I think so. I like what Justin Cooper brings. I was extremely impressed. Take the whoops out of it. I think he would have done even better, but he did really good. If you go back, he came like round 5 in Houston, I think was his first race. Guys were already catching their stride, and he was easily top 10. Like 6th to 10th place. You know what? I mean, that's right outside. I mean, I don't see him beating guys. He's not going to be beating guys like Jet and Kenny, and he beat Kenny a couple times, but he's, I don't think he's to that level. And the 6th to 10th place, that's nothing to sneeze at in the 450. So I think he's going to do great things. I think he's going to be right in that area. He gets good starts. He's consistent. He doesn't ride over the edge. And, with a little luck and some improvement in the whoops, I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I personally, for Justin Cooper, I feel like he needs to. A perfect scenario for me, from the outside looking in, is if he can be. I'm going to use reference Michael Byrne. If he can be the Michael Byrne, that's 3rd on a freaking awesome weekend, and then anywhere from that 8th place, 3rd through 8th. If he can establish himself every weekend to be in that mix from 3rd through 8th, I think that's a great starting point for him in the 450 class. Cause I don't think he's going to be up front winning races, battling with Jet and Eli and Chase like that. Occasionally he'll be able to ride their coattails for a few laps. I don't see him being up front, but for me, if he can take that and be like that 5th place guy every weekend, like there's always guys looking for that spot, for that 5th place spot. Teams, is what I mean, is looking for that 5th place spot. And I think that's something that'll carry, and he can build on that and get better.
It's interesting before we switch gears and go to the 250 class. It's going to be interesting to see where Ferrandis ends up.
The music stopped, right? No more chairs left.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure about the negotiations and all how that went. It's crazy when you think of his accolades in the 250 class, especially in the Supercross and then Motocross. And then he's a premier Pro Motocross champion as well. And now he's outside looking in, doesn't have a deal. I think he'll get something. I think he'll get something for sure before too long. And I had heard at some point that maybe HEP, he would land there, Suzuki HEP, but I don't know. We'll see. I know he's moved down to Claremont. So,
mild stomping ground.
Brett, have you heard anything about HEP?
I think we're expecting him to go to Suzuki and be in the same team as Kenny. But Ferrandis only has 31 Supercross starts in 3 years in the 450 class, only started 4 races in 2023. RV, what does Ferrandis need to succeed in this class? I think the answer is probably obvious.
Yeah, consistency. I mean, like Ricky said, he's got outdoor championship. I mean, he's got race wins under his belt, but the consistency hasn't been there. And you just mentioned, like, not a whole lot of starts for the amount of seasons he's done, right? So, consistency. I mean, the guy's got the speed. But yeah, showing up every weekend. I mean, we got 32 of these things. You have to show up on your A game.
There you go. It's going to be fun. The 450 stuff, man, we could sit here and talk about that all day long, right? And give our
250 class, boys.
Let's thank our sponsors, United Motorsports, Boxo USA, and Quad Lock Case. Check out UnitedMotorsports.com, BoxoUSA.com, QuadLockCase.com. Great companies, great supporters. Remember, United Motorsports, they got 6 locations throughout Kentucky and Ohio. Go check them out. And of course, Quad Lock Case, we do the Quad Lock question of the week or every episode here on Title 24. We got something special for that this week, by the way. Check them out, man. They're blowing up. They make incredible product. And then, of course, BoxoUSA.com, incredible tool company, really making it happen. They support all of Monster Energy, Star Racing, Yamaha. If you're around the pits next year, check out their setups. Pretty cool. Or just go on their site. They have a lifetime guarantee, super easy process. And you can get 10% off all site-wide at Boxo, at Quadlock, at United Motorsports. With the Title 24 is the promo code for 10% off site-wide. So we appreciate everyone. I want to bring Brett back in. And Brett, you know what, dude? We're not done yet. We're going to go silly season and talk about 250. But every week here on Title 24, we do a Quad Lock question of the week. I thought that it would be great, myself and RV, to, you know what, dude? You are the lucky winner of the Quad Lock merch. I know listen, dude, I know
me.
You don't like to bust out the wallet very often. You're very calculated in your expenses and all that.
Look at my phone case; it's falling apart.
Well, you know what? Guess what, my man? For your generous time that you have given us here today on Title 24, you are going to be receiving the Quad Lock merchandise giveaway this week. So I will just let you talk to Curly. He will get you dialed in with Quad Lock Case, and they will send you a whole array of product and accessories that they make. I can assure you that you will like it. And then when you do get it, make sure you tag them and talk about how great the product is.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Take it away, my man. This is your show on the 250 Silky season.
You know what's exciting about the 250 class in motocross and supercross? It's freshies, no defending champions. Jet, Hunter have both moved on. Justin Cooper's moving up. Colt Nichols is already up there. Jeremy Martin, who won 250 motocross titles 10 years ago, we're expecting him to move up to the 450 class maybe also.
Wow.
So we're looking at some fresh faces, at least in supercross, atop the podium, atop the championship ladder.
RV, did you see where the Club MX team signed J Mart like 3-year deal?
I did not for a 450.
Oh, no, 250, right, BJ?
Yeah.
So
He's 250 supercross.
You're saying his current contract was a 3-year contract?
No, I thought they just re-signed him. I thought that's what I read. Am I wrong?
I have read the same thing. 3-year deal.
Okay.
That was a surprise. Listen, dude. We all know he's a tough competitor. He's had a lot of success, but man, he has had a rough go at it the last several years. Some gnarly injuries.
Yep.
And I don't know, man. Like, you go back to when RV, you talk about the speed, especially in that 450 class and the intensity. I mean, if he's not willing to take that risk, and I think it's a risk for him at his age, it's going to be tough in that 250 class. And where he's at, I think that, he just needs to rely on his experience and just be happy with wherever he finishes, up front. If he can run up front at times and be on the podium, collect a win here or there.
Ricky, I feel like
what?
Talking about, well, I feel like expectations, right? Like, I know past champion, and obviously as a past champion, I think multi-time champion actually. Like you have a different mentality, and it's hard to start thinking differently as a champion, and as a race winner. And I think being that we're watching him kind of, on the tail end of his career, I feel like use Phil Nicoletti, for example, like still out there grinding away, doing his best finishes. But if it's not there that weekend, I feel like that's kind of where he needs to be better at his racecraft or his racing on weekends, is like, hey, if it's not there this weekend, then I'm not going to, send it or risk it. I feel like really trying to figure out your tail end of your career. How is the best way am I going to exit here? Am I just going to always end up being hurt and not being on the line all the time and intermittently coming into the racing, or try to be there every single weekend and just get in that top 10 every time and start, once you get a 10th, or let's use 10th, for example, then it's 9th and then it's an 8th. And then Jeremy can start building that confidence and that speed back up. Are we ever going to see him back up front winning races? I don't know about that, but no. I feel like if he can get himself onto a good foundation and start to build on that and work. And what is his exit strategy for his career? Like, go out, with top fives. Like, I think that would be a hell of a exit of a career.
You're damn right it would be, especially RV after coming off some gnarly injuries, dude. The back end. Remember at Muddy Creek when he collided with Cooper, that took a while. And then
his wrist has an issue.
Yeah. So I love what you say about that. Yeah, definitely realistic expectations, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So we're speculating here a little bit. Say he rides the 450 motocross class, takes that into SMX, where you're not gonna get the whoops.
Nope.
There are going to be some motocross type tracks. RC, does he finish top 10, collect some cash?
I mean, top 10. I mean, listen, you guys know I don't like making predictions, but that's going to be tough, dude. I mean, the 450 class in general is going to be tough. And it goes back to what RV was saying about expectations and risk. And
if you ask me, I feel like his where he is. I personally, if I was his manager or his guy, I would keep him down in the 250 for Supercross outdoors and come into SMX finals, in a good position to make a bunch of money in that
Yeah.
light class, because, let's face it, like, I know some guys don't think about it, but I always thought about it. Like, how can I maximize my revenue? Because we're only here for so long at that top level, making the money that we're making. Like, literally, we looked at it. I think, Brett, we looked at my career when we were talked about it at Chicago. And I'm like, oh, I think I raced for 10 years. And we're like, oh, and no, it's actually only 8. So like from start to finish, it was like eight years, I believe, I think we came up with, so trying to maximize your revenue is what these guys, I mean, I know that you just shouldn't, I mean, I always race for money. I don't think it was a problem. No, I didn't race for money, but
you raced
a motivator.
You freaking won races, and you knew that it would be a massive payout. Like,
exactly. And I feel like that's
watching
and listening.
That's right. Everyone watching and listening to Title 24 right now, where RV is saying, like, we both had the same mindset, dude. We're going to go out here. We're going to win every race, or as many as we can. We're going to win as many titles as we can. We're going to get in and we're going to get out. We're going to try to get out and be here as minimal as possible. So now take a career. You're making, 10 to 20 million bucks. Okay. We did it in 10 years. Now, maybe there are some guys doing that, but they're prolonging it. They're having more fun. RV, you've said it. That would have been kind of cool looking back to kind of enjoy that. But it's just a mindset. But that was the old way of thinking. Like, RV was the last guy of that generation to have that mentality. Now these guys are stretching it out. And what's kind of cool about that is they're not sitting around at 27 and, having to stretch that dollar out.
And because let me tell you, I mean, I know, Rick, you've been doing TV for a long time, but like there are some days where it's like, dude, what do we do? Just stare at the wall? Like, so I do think that like prolonging the career is a good thing, but just having real expectations on where these finishes are, like, like to look back at Jeremy and be like, hey, this year for Supercross, you're going to be in contention for the Supercross championship in the lights class. That's super far fetched for me. I wouldn't gamble that. I would tell him, well, that's a long one, buddy. But to top 5 every time, 100%, put yourself in a good position for SMX rounds, and you walk away with, 200-300 grand. Like, that's plus your salary. Like, I think just calculated decisions.
And you don't have a manager, so that's 10% minimum savings, right?
Yeah.
Last question on this topic for both of you. You guys worked yourselves into the ground.
Yeah.
And you were out. Do you notice, and I know you're not at the training facilities with these guys, but RV, you do work with Ryder D, Francesco. Do you tell them, don't work yourself into the ground? Just don't do that to yourself. It's not worth it, or maybe it's not even necessary anymore.
Brett, it's
31 races.
Yep, but it's a different mentality. And why I say it's a different mentality is what Ricky just brought up. Like, I was kind of maybe the last one of that mind thinking, that thought process. These guys today, I feel like you got to bring them down into the trenches. You got to show them what that is. And now I think there is something to be said about, do it smarter, not harder in some scenarios. And I think that is a benefit in some scenarios, but other scenarios that I see with these younger kids is, and just watching all the way through the lights class, all of them, every single one of them, not riders picking him alone, but like, Joe, Levi, Max, Swoll, like these guys, like they don't know how deep they have to dig to be a champion or to stand on top of the box for 32 weekends a year. So it's a fine line. You have to really push these guys to their ultimate limit and breaking point, and even break them a few times and then build them back up. And I think the difference in mentality from when like I came up and Ricky came up it's just always harder, more. You'll be good on the weekends. Where now I think it's a little more calculated. I think we're all of us are a lot smarter when it comes to like, hey, we can't just burn the candle at both ends. But when we do our training, we have to leave every single rock we have to unturn every single rock out there. We can't leave anything out on the track, because I used to ride 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
These guys now are riding 2 days a week,
bro. Minimum.
Yep. Some of these guys are riding 1 to 2 days a week, depending on how they're feeling and with travel and the whole thing. So just, it's all changed. but you still gotta show these guys that this is no joke, and you gotta dig, and you gotta know how hard it is.
Yeah. Put it in perspective for him. Yeah.
Jo Shimoda, 21 years old. He's back at Honda. He was at Geico Honda until the end of 2020. Now he's back. He's with American Honda, and he is expected to win.
Yep.
Right, RC?
Yep, 100%.
Yep, 100%. I don't know. It's certainly, I mean, that Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team, RV, they figured something out. I would say the last 4 Pro Motocross races, all for majority, most of the guys were running up front, top 10. They were all inside the top 10 on starts. And that 250 class, if they're getting good starts most of the time, that's a reflection on how good the bike is performing from an engine standpoint. He was great in the SuperMotocross playoffs. He almost won the world championship in the 250 division.
1-2-2 finishes.
That's right. I'm interested to see if that HRC Honda 250 is going to perform at the level that Cowie was. I find it hard to believe that it's going to. Maybe they'll get it working better in the next few months. We'll have to see. And so I just, I wonder, that's what I'm looking for with Joe. It's like, how is he going to react if it's not working and performing as well as the Cowie was? But I like that he ended on a good note, and it's a new fresh sheet of paper. He's been there before. And he's around some guys that he enjoys being around. They have the same manager, all that fun stuff. So I think the synergy and the vibe will be good for him. I just wonder what it's going to be like if the bike isn't quite as good, and see how he reacts to it. That's my mindset on Joe.
RV, what's it like to go to a team where they won everything in that class the year before, and you have that pressure in the back of your mind where you can't not win, to use a double negative?
Well, that's actually where I was going with it. I think that Joe, being that Hunter is now out, we have Hayden, right? We have Hayden still in the mix in that lights class, but ultimately, like, this is kind of Joe's. This is his time, right? He's been in the lights class for quite a few years, more than quite a few, but he's been in the lights class for a handful of years now. This is his time.
81 races.
Okay, 81 gate drops, and this is his time, right? And to Ricky's point, like, well, let's use Star. We already know Star is probably top cream of the crop when it comes to horsepower, off the line. And then PC just found and closed that gap quite a bit. And what we've seen from, like, say, Hunter is, his race wins they weren't based off, hey, whole shot, pull away, win. It was racecraft. It was him coming through the pack sometimes. It was methodical thinking. So Joe, for example, like, I do think he's on the 3rd best horsepower motorcycle currently. And I think that with the added pressure of him kind of being the guy, Hunter just left, won championships, Jet won everything, and now he's moving into fill their shoes. He's not only going to have a new motorcycle to learn, but he's going to have that added stress and pressure that you just brought up of producing wins and a championship like they hired him to do. So I don't know if Joe has ever been in that position of like the premier top guy, the one that is expected to win. And as you know, that brings a whole different set of challenges every single weekend you show up as you're the guy.
You remember back in the day, dude, if you got hired by Honda, you were there to win championships, not there to get second, not there to get third. And to RV's point, he is being hired to go clean up in that 250 division next year, 120%. And it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be hard because you know who he's gonna be battling against. So, and he's only gonna be better.
And apologies to the Hayden Deegan fans. I said Honda won everything in the 250 class. I forget. We got 3 championships now. Hayden Deegan is your 250 SMX champion. Levi Kitchen, the video is out there of him on his new Kawasaki. He is now with Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. 22 years old. He turns 23 in the middle of the season next year in February. 378 in the Super Motocross Series. one career win, A2 2023. Ricky, what do you expect out of Kitchen?
I think he needs to improve on obviously his finishes last year or this year. I'm expecting a lot more out. What I can't understand, and is so hard for me to fathom, is how when he gets the whole shot, he normally wins.
Yeah.
And he's some way, somehow, maybe it's looking at a different color fender. He's somehow has to find it within himself, and only he's the one that knows why he's not performing to the level that he is expected to perform at. Is he's got to figure out a way to, if you start 5th or you start 8th, you've got to find your way up to at least the podium. You can't continue to get the whole shot, win, and then if you don't get the whole shot, you get 8th. You can't race the speed of where you're around. So only he knows where he needs to be better. So that's what I'm looking for in Levi Kitchen. He's on a great program. RV and I both have great relationships with Mitch. We had a lot of success with Mitch. Mitch is not going to let that kid fail. And I think there's a side there. If you ever hire a star athlete and you're able to get them to your program, there's a little extra. You just have to think there's an extra incentive to say, like, hey, you know what? I brought this guy over from Star, who, they are known to have the best team, 250 team for sure, for many years in the paddock. I think, like Mitch, would want to have massive success with Levi. So that's what I'm looking for in Levi for 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, you rode with Mitch. What is Levi getting himself into under the guidance of Mitch Payton?
I think good guidance. I honestly, that has been Levi's biggest issue, right? Is not being able to back either weekends up or motos up, right? So I haven't spent a lot of time, obviously being based in Florida. He is, can't tell you that what that issue is, but what I'm hoping for is Mitch's team and those guys can help him. Local kid. Yeah. From Washington. So I grew up about 3 hours south of me. So, I'm a big fan of Levi. Love to see him do well, but yeah, he's got to fix his, I think it has to do with some stuff upstairs too. I think he needs to, ultimately realize that this is his job and this is it, man. This is the stage. There's nowhere else to go other than here. So you need to make this work. And if he can do it one moto, he should be able to do it more than that. So that's maybe what Mitch can bring. Maybe there was something that Star was missing that Levi needed, and Mitch will be able to provide that. Like I said, I can't really, do a deep dive into what he's missing over at Star, just because they're 3,000 miles across the United States. So, but no, I think he reminds me of Kevin Windham. I always say that, like, Levi's like the new age Kevin Windham that can scrub. So I'm hoping hope to see him do better.
RV, let's keep you rolling with Max Vohland, who joins Kitchen at Pro Circuit Kawasaki, coming from KTM, where in 48 races, not a single podium.
Yeah, that's
rough.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one, especially, being on a factory team, being, with that factory pressure. Like Ricky said, they expect you to put their motorcycle up front because they have a lot of pride in what they build, and hasn't been able to do that. He's had some pretty decent runs and races. I know the kid's talented, but back to what you said, like what I had said about, the grittiness, the tough, the never say die, to dig as deep as possible. That's what I feel like that Max is lacking a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of these young kids, it's not just Max alone. Every single one of them on this sheet of paper that we're looking at, it's a different generation than the way I was raised or the way Ricky was raised. Oh, yeah. So, I feel like these guys, but talent is there, speed is there, but there's some other pieces of the pie that are missing. And his dad's a great asset for him, and moving over to Mitch, I feel like potentially he'll be able to work with with Talon and Mitch, and hopefully figure out what he's missing in that recipe.
I want to leave you guys with one thing, and everyone that tunes in to Title 24 and is watching us on Peacock or Motorsports and NBC YouTube page. I want to a food for thought for Maximus Vohland is, dude, he was thrown into the hornet's nest. I mean, the guy was like outside the top 10 at mini Olympics. Okay. And that's in November. The next thing, he came out in practice. He was doing well. And he had a gnarly crash in a small set of whoops. And from that point on, I don't feel like he could ever get back to where he was headed. And where I'm going with this is I feel like he was thrown in there way too early. And I feel like KTM got impatient with him because he didn't get the results that they were expecting. But that's not a fair ask, in my opinion, from Red Bull KTM. I mean, dude, he wasn't ready to be there in the first place. He should have got his feet wet, right? And had some more experience, but unfortunately he didn't. And you guys put him in that position. And it takes an incredible amount of fortitude and mental strength, physical strength to pull yourself out of that hole. Right, RV? And I mean, very rarely do you see guys be able to do this, right? Where they're just in the dirt and then they just claw their way out. Only a couple guys. You think like Zach Osborne is a great example of that.
Yep.
Like basically resurrect their career. And I just feel like they put him in a screwed position. So now, like maybe this fresh start will be the start that he was needing 4 years ago. And so that's where I actually feel bad for him in that regard, because I just feel like he was put in a spot that he didn't need to be in. And dude, they grew impatient with him and, he should be doing better, but they're the one that put him in that position. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know all sides of the story, but that's the way that's what I've heard. And that's what I've seen and witnessed. And I don't know, hopefully this new color will work for him. I hope from Mitch's standpoint, it works for him and for Maximum himself, because if you watch him, he's really talented on the motorcycle. Yes. He does some killer stuff on the bike.
No, he's really good. And I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know all that information, but to start off, like to throw him into the deep end like that. And when you're not ready, and then, you keep showing up and getting your ass kicked every single weekend. And then pretty soon we see him in the top 10, and now we see him in, up in the top 5s, doing fairly well. So does that trajectory now, does that really kind of get the afterburners kicked on with this new team, new motorcycle,
I couldn't believe it, RV, like, because I was, kind of like watching the results at the mini Olympics, and then, dude, we show up to Indy for the first East Coast round of Supercross, and I heard that he was going to race. I'm like, what? I'm like, really? That guy just got waxed at mini O's. I'm like, this has no business. But I think that was when KTM didn't have a 250 guy,
and they just moved him up.
Hey, if you're going to do that, in my opinion, if you're going to do that, you got to have some patience and grace with the dude. That's what I think.
Yep, 100%.
Ryder D, moving on to TLD Red Bull GasGas, 18 years old. This will be his first Supercross races, right, RV?
It will be the first full season. Yeah, first full season, first, I guess, to your point, real Supercross whoops in the whole 9 yards. I think that Ryder, very similar to, like a little bit of like Max, like I think they had I know he had expectations of coming in there and felt like he could be up front, but the reality of it was once he got out there to see it, feel it, live it, smell it, and it was a big to swallow, right? Like to see where we came from and where we have to be and where we have to be to get up into that mix. So I thought Ryder did not look, I would have liked him to do better quicker, but this class is tough. And like we're dealing with, like I had mentioned before, these younger riders, different mentality than what I was brought up with. So figuring how to maximize and pull the best out of them is the challenge from a mentor's standpoint. And I think that another rider, rider himself, Kawasaki, his entire career, right from right out of Cobras straight to 65s all the way till now. So, I think that becomes stale, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over at Red Bull, GasGas and TLD, to see what he can, how he can start improving, and that new set of goals and challenges, I think from a kid 18 years old now, but he's literally from 5 years old. He didn't even, he's playing dirt bikes in the ground and, in the dirt, and watched it all the way come up. So I don't know if I think now he realizes the significance of it, how hard he's got to dig, where he's got to go mentally to be that guy.
I liked what I saw from him in the SMX playoffs. It finally seemed like it was like to what Ryan you're saying is like, okay, now he can see where he needs to be. He rode excellent at Charlotte, being up in that mix. He's had some injuries, but I hope that he does well. I don't know how that bike is. That 250 is over at Troy Design's Red Bull GasGas machine. But I hope the best for him, just because you think about it. I mean, ever since he was a little kid on Cobras, and then he was under that Team Green umbrella his whole career, the entirety of his career. And it was weird to see that relationship end. I thought that it was a shock to me. I didn't even know, like, when I'd heard about him, like, wait, what? I can't believe that Cowie would have let him go like that. But I mean, listen, I don't know the details of it. It was sad to see the relationship end. I like Ryder as a person. I think he's very polite. He's always been kind. He's always been kind to me. Has no reason to be. And how can you not want to see someone like that succeed? So
yeah. And Ricky, I bring a point of, like, I see what's a trend in Europe compared to what's here is like to your point of Max Vohland, pulling him out of amateurs and plopping him onto the big stage. Like, for example, look at Liam Everett's. Like, he raced quite a few gate drops, or I want to say a couple years before he is a title contender like he is now. Yeah. And I see, like, use Max, Ryder, some of these, even Levi a little bit, like, I feel like we expect the US, like, and this is how I was bred. Like, if like, dude, we're going to Anaheim. We're going to be up we're going there to win. We're going up there to be in the top 5 right out of the gate, right out of Loretta's. And I think that's a lot of pressure and a lot of, expectation, and maybe a little bit of unrealistic expectation where, when you see these guys that like Max, like Ryder, like Levi, that haven't done road to their potential, but they're slowly building on it. And if these guys in these teams and we start to realize that, like, not every kid is going to come out like a Deegan. Like, it's right. Realistically, I was the last person that came out swinging like Deegan almost. Yeah. That was that consistent, that won that many races, that have done that well. And those are far and few between. So now we got to build some of the guys up that don't come out swinging like that. That have the potential. We got to build them, nurture them, and get them to where they need to be.
I mean, think about 1997 and how sideways it could have gone for you, Ricky.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You hit the ground a couple of times that year.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, listen, dude, I had some rough years in '99 and 2000, like the premier Supercross, class. It was rough, like questioning, like, dude, maybe I'm just a 250 guy. Or a 125 guy, and it's like my mechanic used to mess with me about it, just like teasing me. And, I had to make some changes and I was able to, pick out the points where I needed to improve and my fitness and knowing what I needed from the bike to make me feel comfortable to twist the throttle. And I was able to figure that out. And then I had success, but of course, I mean, it could have went wrong for both of us. That's why going back to Vohland, a guy like that, when you get down in a hole, there's not a lot of guys that recover from stuff like that. So it's crucial. Mm-hmm. RV and I have seen guys that were so good as amateurs, and then they make the jump to the professional level, and they don't make that jump quick enough. They don't run up front quick enough, and not always do they ever get to that level to where we thought they would have been. and there's no rhyme or reason. Or I think, there is something to be said about how fast you get to that level. That's certainly a help. Yeah, it's
all right. Let's move on to Jalek Swoll, who has said goodbye to Husqvarna. I've seen on social media, but not quite sure where he's going. Maybe Ricky, you could shine some light on this for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's going somewhere. I don't know. I mean, I think we can only speculate, but I feel like he's one of those guys that he was in a tough spot from the team perspective, and then he had a gnarly injury. That was a brutal get off that he had right at the first lap Supercross season this year. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got Jalek Swoll. I've watched quite, interesting guy out there, to be honest, because he'll be nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden he'll rip a good start and he's running up front, and he'll be up front for quite a while. He doesn't have the stamina yet, I think that's from what I could tell, the little that I've seen him, he's got the speed, he's got the talent, but doesn't have the longevity in him, So yeah, stint runs out at Husqvarna. RC, I mean, I know we got a new brand out on the field right now. I'm going to just chalk it up and say that we're going to see him over at Triumph,
Thank you.
Okay. See that bad boy out there, buddy.
There you go. It'll be interesting. I look forward to some news. You guys might know more than I know.
Well, I've been on the Vitards already. Been on just looking away, finding all this info.
Dude, don't ask questions, man. You guys saw the motorcycle at LA. What else do you guys want from me?
It looked good. Yeah,
it was fun.
I went up and got to see that. I got a nice video of me checking out that case mark where you took about half the landing of that finish.
Yeah, it's I went and did the hot lap like I was warming up on Fridays. Let me just go out there, just do the finish line and all that fun stuff. I needed a tow, right? And I'm like,
exactly,
dude. As soon as I took off, I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'm in midair RV. I'm like, why the hell do I even do this? Why am I out here? But
did you go from the turn or did you come from the straightaway?
Oh, dude, I wasn't doing that. No, hell.
Well, I feel like for me, I mean, I wasn't on the bike, but I feel like I'd have a better chance of greasing it because coming off the straightaway where you came from and cutting through, I feel like
right?
You could go way too fast.
Yeah.
And out of the turn, you're like, okay, it's looking at it. Okay, it should be about second gear.
The turn was screwed though. There were so many ruts and they were hard and crusty. I'm like, man.
It shows you, hey, listeners, it shows you how soft we both have gotten because they're like, dude, it's ruddy. We ain't riding that.
I got a couple. And the thing is, you know what? Is the 250, I rarely ride a 250 much, for all the testing and stuff that we have done on the Triumph. I've spent some time on the 250, but majority of the time has been on the 450. So
I was curious sitting up in the booth with you guys in LA and Ricky gets his riding gear on. I'm like, oh, right. We're introducing the Triumph tonight, switching gears mentally, then going out there in front of 50,000 people. It's been a decade and a half since you did that regularly. I mean, you must have had some butterflies, right?
No butterflies. I did before I rode on Friday because I don't ride that much unless I need to have something for Triumph. And now that the bikes are coming, and I'll get one here soon, I'll start riding a lot more and go to somebody's house and ride. But yeah, I've only ridden 2 times in a year. So that's
what I'm getting at though. You guys have won a billion championships, but if you don't ride for a month, 6 months, a year, we're human. We get rusty, right?
For me, I don't know how it is for you, RV, but for me, it's when I start taking a month off, 2 months off, 3 months off, 4 months, that's when I really start to know my timing. I notice my timing starts. Yeah, my timing starts to slip big time.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And we're just at it. Dude, let's face it. We're out of shape. I rode the brand new YZ.
That just goes goes without saying, dude. Half the time I'm hungover, because it's always when we're at a trip and we had a great night out, it can never be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, right? It's always after we've done something the night before. You know what I mean? When you go ride a supercross track, at least at our age now, it's like, and that's what we worked for, right?
Yep.
It's like, hey, we're out with our boys on Friday night. We're going to enjoy ourselves, have a great dinner, some wine, whatever it might be. And like, you're like, oh, I'll be okay the next day. And then you go out there and you're right. Like, damn, I shouldn't have done this.
That's right.
Well, any final silly season thoughts, you guys?
No, man, I think I'm looking forward to it. I think that interesting to see. What I'm looking forward to is obviously I'm hoping to see a lot of these, Supercross videos, just like the Trans Worlds or the Swap Moto Lives, the Racer X, to see kind of. I know we seen Levi out at Paula the other day. TLD and Ryder's introduction video, I thought was really cool to see of him, coming out on the bike and Barsha pulling the pantyhose over their head.
That was good, dude.
Going after him. So, those are the cool things. This is the off season, right? There's not much going on. So I look forward to seeing those behind the scenes, not old, but behind the scenes riding videos of Supercross, motocross, these guys developing and getting, they get to see their new looks, new gear, maybe new numbers, new bike. That's all the exciting stuff for the off season for me.
Yeah. Yep. Same. Again, I mirror what RV said, and just I look forward to hopefully all these guys have a safe off season. We get to Anaheim. It's just right around the corner, and see how they perform. No, I have zero speculation until I see what they do. And I hope that a lot of these riders that have made changes, they find the comfort and the happiness that possibly that they were looking for. But nevertheless, Brett, we appreciate you, Brett Smith from We Went Fast. You guys got to check it out. He does a great job, himself, and then of course the king of the calculator, Clinton Fowler. Brett, we appreciate your time today here on Title 24.
Thanks, guys. Have a great October, a great fall. Happy off season.
Well, that was good, RV. I think I think next one we should probably do is we should do MXON. Would you say France is probably the favorite? I mean, they're at Arnay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to say Australia too, right? But who is it? Todd Waters? Who's their third?
Yeah.
Who's there? I'm trying to think who their third was.
I'm not sure.
I don't know either, but so they should be pretty strong. Obviously France, they're going to come out swinging. It's home soil.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not sleeping on USA. I think you listen to what DeCoster said. You got three guys that want to race. And when you want to race, that's something good. They're not going there. They're not hating it. So it'll be fun to see what those guys do, and maybe we'll have a little we'll rehash the MXON results here on Title 24. We'll keep you guys posted. What do you think, RV? Should we do that?
I think so. I think we should do a deep dive maybe into MXON and really get some and explain the fans how FIM rules are and Parc Fermé, and if you're 1 second, I know people have heard this, but not probably from us or in depth like that. But like when the US goes over to Europe, there's no bad blood or anything, but our target on our back is absolutely huge. We are the pinnacle of two-wheel motorsports, and Supercross motocross is here in the US. Supercross, now we have the SMX finals, and we got outdoors, right? And as you see, Kenny, Ferrandis, Joe, like they come here if they're capable of riding Supercross, partly because the money is better, and it's living in the United States, right? It's the place everybody wants to be. So I think for the US guys going over to England, it was always one of my favorite races, but man, the load and pressure of performing over there, as you know, is none. There's not another race like it.
No, there isn't 100%. I would say if there's any advice to Team USA, dude, just go over there. You're going to have a lot of people in your ear. Just go over there and do what you do. keep it on 2 wheels, and I guarantee you guys will do better than what most people think that you're going to do. And really, there's no secrets in my mind. I mean, definitely you got to ride fast to win the race, but to get a good overall score, I mean, our team has the ability to do well if they just keep it upright and be as close to the front in their respected division as they could possibly be, and maybe they could sneak out to a better finish than what people are giving them credit for. Maybe.
Yep. 100%.
All right. Again, thank you to Brett Smith and at We Went Fast. Incredible to have him on. That was fun, RV, to kind of chop it up with him and him kind of do all the heavy lifting today, right?
Yeah, no, and the deep dives, like the stories. I think fans and listeners probably, that was I wouldn't call it a huge deep dive, but more than we've done in the past. But I would love to see, Brett or Clint and us really deep dive into, say, your career, my career, and have them pull up maybe some old footage. And maybe I'm talking off season stuff, guys, to keep the listeners, keep the fans engaged, and also uncover stuff that's never really been talked about or heard or seen, just like what Brett did with that write-up and story on yourself.
Yeah, get some people that have a different light, and they can tell some stories that, like you said, we have forgotten for sure. But we know it was long, but it was well worth it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you were listening to it or you're watching it, remember, we appreciate all of our partners at United Motorsports, Boxo USA, and of course Quad Lock Case. Appreciate the merch giveaway. The promo code at all those companies, 10% off. It's Title 24. Remember, if you want to watch us, it's always on demand on Peacock, so you can go and check this out, or past episodes, of course. And then it's on Motorsports on NBC's YouTube page as well. You can watch it there. If you can't watch it and you want to listen to it, remember, you can always we're on all the podcast platforms, so make sure you check it out. We appreciate all the support. We will be back with you, RV and I will, for a little wrap up and deep dive on the results from the Motocross of Nations. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and we'll see you after MXON.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.